So you may ask questions. You can
you tell us more about your plans of developing the yoga center?
In our first announcement, we have said that we shall have at Kanyakumari an international center for yoga. Nowadays, there are many institutions dedicated to yoga, and many modern versions of yoga also are in vogue. Our idea is to have the yoga in its traditional form. Whatever Patanjali has said, or whatever our old scriptures say, we want to develop a discipline here on the basis of traditional yoga, so that if anybody in the country or outside, if he wants to study yoga, we should be able to provide facilities for him. Whether one coming from abroad or coming from any part of the country, we should be able to provide facilities for him for the study of yoga. There should be proper teachers here, both in theory and practice. So the main center will be here at Kanyakumari. And then, because this Kanyakumari is in the southern end of the country, naturally it won't be able to conveniently cater to the needs of all regions. So we would like to have sub-centers placed or spaced in different regions in the country. Even for other purposes also, we intend to set up about 11 sub-centers. We divided the country into several parts for catering or for spreading what we aspire to spread. The message of Vivekananda, the yoga and other things. For that purpose we would like to have sub-centers in the country. So in the north, in the south, west, east, conveniently grouped together different states, some convenient places where 2-3 states can find convenience of approach. So, for the present we are seized of the setting up of center at Tinsukia, that is in Assam. The first center, first sub-center is to be set up at Tinsukia. So this yoga center, where it will be set up here, we would naturally like to have a sub-center at Tinsukia. In time to come, other centers will come. Just as the other day I was telling that we are thinking of having a center near Bombay, somewhere near Bombay, Pune, Nasik, in that vicinity, so that it can cater to the needs of both Gujarat and Maharashtra. So, at the moment only 2 centers are in our view. One is in the offing, that is at Tinsukia, and the other is under contemplation.
The importance given by you to the yoga, Swamiji's message of service to the yoga and to people, how is your?
Yes, one has the bearing upon the other, because as I said, after all, if you want to spread this message of service, that means we should have proper men who can be fit instruments of service. It is only through that sort of human material that you can spread this message of service and also have a network of service activities. So we are convinced that is yoga training. If by yoga training you simply mean a few yogasanas, that is not the yoga training. Yoga training in its comprehensive sense, it prepares a person for any higher job. It brings excellence. It brings grace in work. Whether it is physical, intellectual, that brings efficiency. That summons all your powers and channelizes all your energies to the cause you have faith. So that is how this yoga is connected with any walk of life that we may choose. That is why we have given emphasis on yoga.
In our country, there are more than 30 lakhs of people. Those were said to be sannyasis, sadhus, maharajas, and they have the grip on the largest population of our country. So, what this Vivekananda Kendra is doing, or is going to do, to aim is name-making a nation building.
These, you mean the sannyasis?
Yeah.
And the sadhus. How did you arrive at this figure, 30 lakhs? Of course, I am not aware of it, whether they are 30 lakhs or 3 lakhs or 3 crores. Well, number doesn't matter. They may be 10 lakhs to 50 lakhs. But I don't think that in any case they can be 30 lakhs. Because 30 lakhs comes to 1% of the population. 1% of the adult population. 30 lakhs, this number I remember because we collected donations for this Vivekananda Rock Memorial from 30 lakhs of people. So it comes to about 1% of the adult population. So I don't think perhaps the number of sadhus and sannyasis may be something like 1% of the adult population. Anyway, whatever may be the number, but unfortunately this class of sadhus, I do not think that they can be organized and their energies can be channelized. So perhaps it would be more worthwhile to organize other set of people rather than employing energies on this very fluid class of people. These, even if they are 30 lakhs or 10 lakhs, by very nature of these people, why they have taken to sannyas, why they have taken to sadhuship, it is not only the spiritual hunger that has been the cause of their taking to this saffron cloth, but there are various other factors. The other day, some 2 years back, one gentleman came here. He gave his name as Nityanand. Of course, he was clad in saffron cloth. And he said that he is a monk and he would like to work with Vivekananda King. Of course, we did not know about him. So, we said, well, if you want to work, we have got a lot of work here, you can take up some work. So, he was given work in a bookstall. He will sell Swamiji's books. Here in the reception office, there is a small bookstall. So he was asked to look after. So we found that the books are going, but the money is falling short. So when we checked, we found that the cash was less. Then we were a little perturbed what sort of monk he is. And then in the meantime we got reports from some places. Giving the description of a monk who looked like him. So we were put on guard. Then we took him to the office and asked him, now you tell us what you are, and where do you come from, and what do you want, where you are working. Then because we had some evidence with us, so he couldn't hide, and then he gave his identity. Told that he came from Andhra, he was in Anantapur, he was running a school. So many stories, some imaginary, some having some grain of truth. Then we asked him this question that, well, how you became sannyasi? So he told that, to tell you the truth, I had gone with some people for sightseeing in the north, in Kashmir, here, there. Some party went, so I also joined. Then the party, of course, some of them businessmen, some were teachers, so they returned. I felt like staying there because I was enchanted by the atmosphere, the Himalayas, these rivers. So I stayed there. But when I stayed there for 2-3 days, I discovered that, well, I can't stay here for long because I have no money. And I was feeling hungry, I was starving. Then I was told that there is one ashram. There the people are fed every day. But then everybody is not fed. Only those who have the saffron cloth, they are fed. So how can I get the saffron cloth? So then I went to a person who was having a mutt, and I said that, you give me the saffron cloth. So he said that, well, you serve in my mutt, you do some work, after some time I will give you. So therefore, he served there for some time. And after some 1 or 2 months, that Mathadipati there, he agreed to give him saffron cloth on the understanding that for food he will go to that place where free food is given, and for work he will come here. So the arrangement was convenient to him. So he took saffron cloth, took Gerua from that Mathadipati, and he was there for some time. And then he started his journey southwards, and somehow he thought that he should come to Kanyakumari. And then he came here. Now I hear that he is still roaming about, and recently he has been caught by the police because he gave out to the people that he is a Vivekananda Kendra worker, and Vivekananda Kendra has some plan to put up a memorial in Visakhapatnam, and a statue is going to be put up there. So I have been deputed to collect money for that purpose. So because he took Vivekananda Kendra name, and some people there, they knew something about Vivekananda Kendra, and they could easily notice that this fellow could not be Vivekananda Kendra worker. They reported to the police, he was arrested. But then people told that there are many stories about him. So people take to this cloth because it is convenient in this country. Who is real, who is genuine, is very difficult to say. Even beggars, they find it difficult, they find it easy to beg with this saffron cloth. So who is a beggar, who is a spiritual seeker, who is a cheat, so it is very difficult to say. And how many are genuine seekers of truth? So it is very difficult to identify them. And moreover, this many people take to this particular profession because they do not get birth anywhere. Many of them. It will be presumptuous to make a statement that all are like that. But many at present are like this, that they do not get birth anywhere, so they think that perhaps taken to this cloth would solve many of their problems. They don't get employment and they are unemployable also. So some of them choose that line. Then even those who are seekers after truth, they also do not have much interest in the service and in work. So, looking at the problem from various angles, the first statement I made that it is better to employ energy in organizing other people rather than be after these sadhus.
After this time, formed like what was late.
You see, we started our work in 1973-74. We started with 16 people. The first batch was 16 people. And almost every year, the same number, more or less, was recruited. Applications were many, but then we could select, or rather, ultimately the number that we could retain was 16, 17, 15, round about 16, 15. So 4 batches have been trained, and they have been sent to northeastern region mainly. So we can say that about 60 people have been already deployed in different places. Very few in other places like Madras, Kanyakumari, this Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay. Because for organizational purposes we have sent them there, but mostly they have been deployed in northeastern region. Then there are dropouts for various reasons. Because a person comes with some fashionable idea of service, he cannot pull on, he comes with certain expectations, then we find that this may not be the right thing for him. Some people come with genuine desire to work, but then they have not calculated the situation at home. Some context changes, the father dies, or some other mishap happens, then they have to retire, they have to return back home. So there are a number of reasons for it, or dropouts. But I think 60% people at the moment are in work. At the moment, I cannot say for tomorrow, less. But more or less 60% people remain, 40% dropped out. But even those who dropped out, they are not absolutely out. Though they are not able to work as whole-timers, they are in work in one sense or the other. They are doing some helping the local branch, joining their forces with the life workers who are working there. So that is the percentage of people who were retained. This percentage will grow because in the beginning we had to depend solely upon newspapers. We had to advertise, invite people through press conferences. We don't have machinery at the moment to locate proper people, to identify proper people. We just say something in the press or advertise nowadays. For the last 2-3 years we are advertising. In the first 2 years, we were not advertising. We were just taking press conferences. From state to state, we used to go to different capitals, address press conferences, tell people that this is what you want to do. Then on the basis of those reports, people used to apply. And out of the many applicants, we used to select. So necessarily, the right type of people were not attracted by or even advertisements. They fall in the hands of those who are after advertisements. That means who are thinking of jobs. And very few people they come across this. They are not in search of advertisements, they are in search of jobs, but they happen to know when they come. So as long as there is no machinery, for example now, if say at Mysore, in capital places, if there are centers, there the Vivekananda Kendra is functioning, then we can locate. At least we will send people and they will suggest. We can get information also, information about the applicant through many people who may be in our contact. So in time to come, this percentage will be more. This percentage also is quite satisfactory. I wonder how 60% also will be. We were prepared for 75% dropout. So, this is the position.
Really idea about
Yes, we have a comprehensive scheme. We intend to have Sanskrit classes all wherever possible. Sanskrit classes we have to organize. We don't have many Sanskrit, but even now there are places where there are Sanskrit teachers who can teach Sanskrit. So those who can to be brought together and classes are to be organized and incentive is to be given. Examinations are to be properly organized. In this way we can think of building Sanskrit. And nowadays there is some reawakening in the country regarding Sanskrit. And time for taking. Recently we have sent letters to different places exploring the possibility of starting classes, at least at important places in the country, especially university centers. Then we may come down to district centers, still lesser places like towns. So we do have a plan to start Sanskrit classes and organize examinations to begin with. Then when this atmosphere is created and enthusiasm is generated, we may think of taking other steps.
Instead of that, we start a Sanskrit college in general, can be yoga.
That will automatically come. See, when there will be demand and the whole thing is to be concretized, the whole scheme is to properly function, then we shall need teachers, and out of that necessity, college may come up either here or somewhere, not necessarily at Kanyakumari. There may be some center set up somewhere. If yoga center is here, we may put up center for spread of Sanskrit. Some other place also.
The two objectives for which Vivekananda generally formed and have been told is man making and man. So, every activity that is being carried on now looks either at intelligence class or upper class of the strata of society. So, you may not reach the majority of the mass people who are ignorant, illiterate and poor. Do you have any future plans how it should go in today's society? Because even for the memorial, 85 lakhs came from the small collections. Only a few came from big donations. So 1.5 crores are spent on that memorial. Likewise, if there is to be a mass a plan should be there to reach every nook and corner of the country. But as it looks, this whole planning and teaching, everything is going on. It only caters to the educated class, intelligent class, and the upper strata of society.
Yes, you are in a sense right. All these works, the backbone for all these works is necessarily the middle class. I don't say the intellectual class. It is the middle class which has to bear the brunt of all other people who donate. We tell them that, well, why do you want your name and fame and this and that? What is the use of, as this remain in this earth, you want a place there and you want a name there. This is a tamasic brand. What do you want? God has given God has given you plenty, you distribute it in 2 hands. Forget about it. But if they are not able to take that attitude, we don't say that, well, then we don't donate. You forget, let your name be there. At least you will learn to give and not always take. You will know and you will have some habit of giving also. So whatever he gives, it is good. That is also good. But the attitude which he is giving can be better. That certainly we can tell. Do not accept it. One day I met one instance. I happened to meet him in a place where bhojan was going on. Some good sannyasi had come and he was giving a discourse. I have not gone for that discourse. I have gone there to meet the person. I did not know the discourse was going on. So I waited. Because I waited there, I thought of attending it. So 25 minutes I was there, so I sat there and heard. So when this service came out, I was to go with him to some other place. So he said, "Where did you come?" I said, "I came here and I was attending, I was listening to him. Well, he speaks very nicely and I like the subject." So on the same subject we had some 8 or 10 days back we had some discussion. So he felt little guilty about it and he himself started. Then you see, Swamiji was telling so many things that he told that while you give, you don't have this attitude of patronage and don't expect anything in return and name and this and that. He told, you see, we are businessmen. We want that at least people should know that we don't only suck from people, we also give. How can people know this unless our name is there? So that is a weakness in us. But what can we do? We are Vaishyas. So we always think in terms of give and take. So that is the difficulty. I didn't ask him, but he was telling of his own account. So people know it, but still they are not equal to it. But that doesn't mean that whatever they are doing, that also they should not do. You tell them what is the ideal and leave it. They will depending upon their stature, they will accept whatever is possible for them to accept. After all, a man cannot reach more than his hands can reach out. He cannot be higher than his height. So leave it. So don't bring it down. You may think that, well, I will take this, then this, then this. I will only, first 10 days I will only give figures of 1 to 10, then 10 to 20. But with this idea that these people are not capable of reaching higher things, they should be kept down, that attitude is not good. Stages you may decide.
But difficulty comes, I come with a great patriarchal. But in my life training, I feel that all things that are talked about is the reality, spiritual and meditation, all these things. So I feel that what is this? I came probably to the wrong place. I wanted to serve the people, I wanted to have reconstruction of the nation, all these things, but the emphasis given to individual development or the spiritual life that we talk about. So I get the feeling that no, probably it is not right. So I want only this. So what I should do?
You must educate, you must enlighten. There is some such thing as enlightenment. And many things people can understand only in certain times, certain situations. You see, I tell you one experience. Which made me, it brought about a very terrific change in me. In 1948, when Gandhiji was murdered, on that day I was at Indore. I was leaving my place for going to Sagar. The program was to go to Sagar. In the evening, I left my place where I was putting up. I left the place near Tanga. I was going to the station. So some 3-4 boys came running and told me that, have you heard something? I said, what? He said, Gandhiji is murdered. So when we strike, there will be attack, and you are going for a training of. So I said, well, you people, every day you kill one leader. Because just 4 or 5 days before, in the same way in the market, the rumor was spread that Jinnah was killed. Manavati Jinnah. I said, you every week you kill one leader. So just as Jinnah was killed, Jinnah was not killed, but the rumor was there. In the same way, this rumor you must have heard. So I laughed it away. I went to the station. At the station also I heard some murmur. But I sat in the train, then from Indore I went to Mahu. By the time I went to Mahu, the information was confirmed. Then I thought what to do. Now I had already left Indore. So I went to Itarsi, and I thought that now instead of going to Sagar, then some other the symptoms of some calamity of the RSS also I found the top of the people. So they were saying, you RSS man, this was a plot was made by RSS and this and that, and it has started. So by the time I went to Itarsi, I thought it was better to go to Nagpur and not to Sagar. So I went to Nagpur. Of course, Nagpur, the whole atmosphere was different. By the time I went to Nagpur, there were crowds on the road, and already a tussle had started between the RSS people and the Congress people. I was with Chudar Pajama and all that, so nobody took me as a Maharashtrian. So I had to go straight to the place. I went there, I found that Guruji was under house arrest. There were guards, armed guards, and twice there was an attack on the RSS office and it was repulsed. There was a regular fight. When I went to someone's house, he told me the whole thing, that this is the position. Now, what are you going to do? So I said that, I must meet Guruji. He said that there are armed guards, they don't allow anyone to go. And nobody can come in and nobody can go out. Because of the skirmishes which are going on there, some RSS workers had assembled at a nearby place. So having come to know that I have come, so they called me. I went there. Then they told me that there is one great impending danger. Tonight there is a public meeting. And all these big leaders are going to speak. And the plan is that after the public meeting, all the people will be instigated to go to Guruji's house and attack that house. And the armed guards, by that time they will be removed, so that they can do whatever they want. So that is the plan. This plan has been hatched in the city police station. The congressmen and all the people have gone there and they have had the plan. And one of the police superintendents who was taken into confidence, he has reported this, that today, between 8 and 9, or 9 and 10, as soon as the public meeting is over, the public meeting is about 5:30. By 9 o'clock the public meeting will be over and all the people will come. The whole mob will come. Because just furlong from the public meeting place. The whole mob will come and they will attack the house. And just before that 5 minutes, when we will get the signal that the public meeting is over, the armed guards will be taken away, so that there is no obstruction. So, luckily, all the telephone connections are cut. If we try to ring anybody, it was not possible. All the RSS workers, their telephones are cut. So, in the morning, we had given a telegram to all the centers that keep calm under any provocation. This was the telegram sent by the RSS headquarters, under the Guruji's signature, to all the centers in the country. Keep calm under any provocations. But the people say that if Guru's house is attacked, then there will be a fight. The surrounding houses, the houses were gathering. Some 3 people here, 4 people here, 10 people there. After they heard that this is going to happen, and Guruji was sending message from his house every 1 hour, 2 hours, that you will see that there is no violence in the country. Otherwise this will develop into a civil war. You instruct all people that whatever happens here, whatever may happen to me or anybody else, you are not to retaliate. So people's anxiety was this, that if we are not to retaliate, and suppose something happens to Guruji, and this spreads all over the country, how are you going to stop the people from fidelity. If his own instructions are to be followed, then we have to see that thing untoward happens at Nagpur, especially to Guruji. Whatever may happen, nobody should touch him. Otherwise we shall not be able to maintain calm. That will be beyond us. So how to achieve this? So the idea came that when it is certain that the armed guards will be removed, say 20 minutes or half an hour before, so let us take that signal and let us wait for the opportunity. As soon as the armed guards are removed, they will remove the armed guards so that the mob can come and do whatever they want. But we should utilize that opportunity and take Guruji to some separate place. So cars were kept ready, jeep was kept ready, clandestinely everything was arranged. And but now the question came whether Guruji will agree to it. So I was deputed that I should go to Guruji. But from the entrance you cannot go. So when the evening came and it was dusk and it was darkness, so the house was there and there were 3 houses, neighboring houses. So third house belonged to a Swayamsevak. So from his house I went to the top, the roof. In that house I came to another house, in that house I came to another house. And about 7 o'clock I got into Guruji's house from the rooftop. Guruji was alone. His mother was there down below. His father was also there. And some children there. He was surprised to see me. I said to where do you come and all that. I found him very calm, quiet. Then I broached the subject. I said that, have you heard about the plans? He said, what are the plans? Then I told him, this is the position, they are going to attack. So all things I told. And then I said that when the guards will be removed from the gate, we are planning to take you to separate place. We won't plan it. Then he said that why should I go? I have worked here among the people. When these people themselves, if they don't want me, is it not quite reasonable that if they don't want me, they are entitled to kill me, what is that? And if from these very people whom I served, am I to run for my safety? And after all, I can't go out of my society. What is the guarantee that the people there will like me? If I have, where I have worked, where I have lived, among whom I have worked, if they have begun to dislike me, then where am I to go? So your solution absolutely is wrong, and you are agitated, unnecessarily agitated. And first of all, you calm down. Take it easy. Take it easy. If in God's will that I shall be killed here, then it will come. Perhaps it will be, that may be a blessing in disguise. Who knows? There are inscrutable are the ways of God. So don't get agitated. You will calm down. And as you say that they are going to come between 9 and 10, now it is 8:50. So they will come within 15 minutes. They will come within half an hour. So at least let me have my prayer. Go. I will finish my prayer and wait for me. And you tell to the people that I have met Guruji and I have asked them to keep calm. I will not like to have bloodshed in my courtyard for me. So, you go and tell this to the people. Let us see. Let us see what happens. Let us go before the God's will. When he said this, that day I understood what is faith in God and what is a social worker and what is fearlessness and what is inner strength. All things in one trice I learned, which I could not have learned reading books on philosophy. In trice I learned what it is. What is faith in God, what is fearlessness, what is inner strength. Why people say that the swords cannot cut me, the fire cannot burn, the water cannot dry. What does it mean? They are not simply words. It's not a tall talk. It is a fact of life. People can really experience it. So therefore I say, to understand this, my speaking will not be able to make Sadhu understand. Experiences, when you come across situations, those situations will make you learn what it is. Fortunately, that night we had made some alternative arrangements. We had our apprehensions. So actually, I had told the people that this is not going to work. I don't think we will ever agree to wait for a night. I will go and I will try my best if you find that this is the only solution. I will try my utmost, but this is not going to work. Ordinary arrangement was made that when we went on the motorcycle, there was one DSP known to us, and he was living in civil lines. So that gentleman was sent, because no telephone connection was available. So we went there, told him this is the position. Then he came. He was a DSP, therefore he got a police force. And just in the nick of time, the public meeting was according to time schedule, they had to close the program. And when the public started from there, with all the hullabaloo, the police force came just 5 minutes before, and they diverted the cattle. And he was taken into custody and sent to jail. That night, not immediately was taken to jail. That night at 1 o'clock, because he had no power to take him to jail. So he first dispersed the crowd and made that place safe. He put the police force there. Then he went to the Home Minister, pleaded with him that it is not safe to keep Mr. Goldberg in his house. Better he should be removed to jail. So he was taken under detention and he was taken to jail. But that little episode, it taught me volumes to the subject. I would like you to ask me anything which is relevant to what I said in the previous lecture. If anything you feel like asking, so that this subject will move on.
एक बात पूछना चाहूँगी इस बारे में, जैसे आपने जो प्रेरणा दी थी उस समय तो भारत देश का नेतृत्व में था और उस समय आपने प्रेरणा दी थी पैट्रियटिज्म का, स्वामी विवेकानंद जी का जो आपने अभ्यास किया वो भी पैट्रियटिज्म के कारण किया। और बाद में आपने देखा कि जैसे भारत देश से विलीन हो गया, वैसे आपने देखा कि तो फिर सामाजिक एडवेंचर बिता रहे। आपको लगा कि किस प्रकार से ये किया जाए, तो आपने जो डिवाइन के साथ जुड़ने के लिए स्वामी जी के लिटरेचर का अभ्यास किया, तो डिवाइन के साथ जुड़ने का भी हेतु है ना, मतलब स्पिरिचुअलिटी इज द पर्पस और जस्ट टू रेज द इंडिविजुअल of his व्यक्ति को ऊपर उठाना या ये हेतु है या राष्ट्र को ऊपर उठाना ये हेतु है या इससे भी ज्यादा
थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजन स्पिरिचुअलिटी के संबंध में है, अन्यथा ये घटना नहीं पूछती थी। मैंने केवल बात की स्पिरिचुअल अर्थ की। कोई भी काम करने के लिए एक जैसे देश को स्वतंत्र करना है, सोसाइटी की सेवा के काम करने हैं, और भी विभिन्न प्रकार के काम है, तो इसका जो मोटिव फोर्स होता है जो आदमी को इस काम के लिए प्रवृत्त करता है, तो वो अगर ये सोशल प्रॉब्लम्स या जो पॉलिटिकल प्रॉब्लम्स है और देश का जो एक समाज में स्थान है, दुनिया में स्थान है, जैसे अपना एक फैमिली का स्थान होता है, तो अपनी जो अपना जो परिवार है उसको भी ऊंचा स्थान प्राप्त हो, परिवार का नाम हो, परिवार चारों उसकी दिगंत फैलती हो, इस हेतु से आदमी काम कर सकता है। अपने परिवार का नाम ऊंचा हो इसलिए भी अथक परिश्रम कर सकता है। जैसे मेरे पिताजी बड़े पंडित रहे हैं, मेरे पिता बहुत पंडित रहे हैं, मैंने भी पंडित होना चाहिए, मैंने भी वेद शास्त्र संपन्न होना चाहिए। मेरे पिता थे, मेरे पितामह थे, मेरे घर में परंपरा चली आई है, तो मैंने भी कुछ और अपना नाम कायम करना चाहिए। यह भी एक विचार मनुष्य को ऊपर उठाने में काफी उपयुक्त हो सकता है। तो उसके अंदर एक सेंस ऑफ प्राइड है अपने परिवार के लिए, तो वो भी तो उसको जरूर जानने देगा। जब तक उसके अंदर कोई आलस्य आएगा, उसके अंदर कुछ ऐसे ढीले विचार आएंगे, तो तुरंत उसके मन में अरे मेरे को तो ये होना है, मैं तो उनका बेटा हूँ, मैं तो उनका पौत्र हूँ, ऐसा कैसे? परीक्षा है तो फर्स्ट नंबर आना चाहिए क्योंकि मेरे पिता इतने बड़े विद्वान थे। तो इस तरह से जब भी उसके अंदर ढिलाई के कोई विचार आएंगे तो वो उन ढिलाई के विचारों से उसको प्रवृत्त करने का सामर्थ्य उस एक अपने कुल का अभिमान उसमें होता है। तो जो मैं काम करता हूँ तो वो मुझे उस काम को प्रवृत्त करने वाली प्रेरणा में कहाँ से करता हूँ? ये कुल का जो अभिमान है ये जैसा होता है जैसे देश का अभिमान होता है, कुल का होता है, देश का भी होता है। जैसे अगर अपने समाज में धड़ाधड़ लोग क्रिश्चियन बन रहे, मैं हिंदू धर्म का हूँ और अपने पूर्वजों ने तो दुनिया में जाकर के हिंदू धर्म फैलाया और हमारे घर के अंदर बाहर के लोग आकर के हमारे ही बांधवों को ईसाई बना रहे हैं, मुसलमान बना रहे हैं। तो जिसको अपने हिंदू कुल का अभिमान है, हिंदू देश का अभिमान है, तो वो अभिमान भी उसको अच्छे कामों के लिए प्रवृत्त कर सकता है। कोई देश बड़ा धर्म और बड़ा भगवान के प्रति आस्था हो न हो, उसने कोई उसके बारे में चिंतन भी न किया हो, तब भी इतना विचार पर्याप्त है उसको बड़ा बनाने के लिए, सन्मार्ग पर चलने के लिए, कुछ पराक्रम करने के लिए, कुछ एक जीवन में कुछ तेजस्विता लाने के लिए। तो ये ऐसे जो अर्जेस होते हैं, मैंने सोशल अर्ज का, पैट्रियोटिक अर्ज का, तो ऐसे लोग हो सकते हैं जिनके जो आस्तिक नहीं है, नास्तिक नहीं है, कोई भगवान के ऊपर विश्वास नहीं, कभी भगवान की आस्था नहीं है, उनको एथिस्ट कह सकते हैं, उनके बारे में चिंतन नहीं किया उन्होंने, परंतु दे हैव ग्रेट प्राइड फॉर देयर कंट्री, ग्रेट प्राइड फॉर देयर फोरफादर्स, और एक अपना समाज कैसा होना चाहिए, चार लोगों में अपने समाज को गाली नहीं देना चाहिए। अगर हम विदेश में गए तो अपनी इज्जत होना चाहिए, अपने लोगों की इज्जत होना चाहिए। तो ये जो छोटी छोटी बातें हैं, जैसे महात्मा गांधी अफ्रीका में गए तो उनको अफ्रीका में जाने के बाद कुछ ऐसे अनुभव आए कि हिंदुस्तान के आदमी के संबंध में वहाँ के उस वक्त राज्यकर्ता लोगों उनको ऐसा ये खुली है, ये क्या है, तो अपने स्वाभिमान को ठेस पहुँचती है। तो ऐसा कोई भी व्यक्ति जिसके अंदर कोई ईश्वर आदि की कोई गहरी बातें सोचने की जिसके अंदर शक्ति नहीं है, परंतु एक अपना देशाभिमान है, धर्माभिमान है, समाज का अभिमान है, मैं हिंदू हूँ, मेरा ये समाज है, मेरा ये घर है, मेरा देश है, ऐसा ममत्व अपने देश के बारे में, धर्म के बारे में, समाज के बारे में, यह ममत्व की भावना बहुत तीव्र है। तो वो तीव्र भावना भी उसको काम करने के लिए पर्याप्त सहायता कर सकती है। वो उसके अपने जिंदगी में उसने और किसी बात का सहारा नहीं लिया, तब भी वो आगे आगे बढ़ सकता है, उतनी बात उसके लिए पर्याप्त है। तो मैं ये डिफरेंस कर रहा हूँ कि जो काम मनुष्य करता है उसकी प्रेरणा किस बात से उसको मिलती है, कौन सी चीज उसको आगे बढ़ाती है, उसके अंदर ये सारे दोष ना आवे, आलस्य ना आवे, ढिलाई ना आवे, कुछ कुमार्ग पर जाने की उसके अंदर कोई किसी प्रकार की कभी वीकनेस पैदा न हो। तो ये इसके लिए ऐसे कोई उसको उसको ऊपर ले जाने वाले, एलिवेट करने वाले ऐसे जो थॉट्स है, सोशल अर्थ भी आदमी को ऊपर ले जा सकता है, पैट्रियोटिक अर्थ भी ले जा सकता है, वही काम है। अब देखिए लोकमान्य तिलक, इनकी प्रेरणा काम करने की, ये देश का काम क्या होगा, पॉलिटिकल वर्क किया। उन्होंने कोई अध्यात्म साधन नहीं किया, जैसा जो बड़े बड़े सन्यासी आदि जिन्होंने आश्रम खोले हैं, जिन्होंने कुछ मेडिटेशन किया है, करते रहते हैं, कुछ उपनिषद का अभ्यास किया, ऐसा कोई स्वाध्याय करते रहते हैं, उसी में अधिक चिंतन, उसी में अधिक मनन, उसी में समय बिताते हैं। इस प्रकार का तो कोई उन्होंने अध्यात्म साधन नहीं किया लोकमान्य तिलक ने। वो तो एक पूरी तरह से ही वॉज नेक डीप इन पॉलिटिक्स, उनको समय भी नहीं मिलता होगा, शायद घंटा भर भी समय नहीं मिलता होगा भगवान की प्रार्थना करने, परंतु उनके जीवन का थोड़ा सा अध्ययन अगर किया होगा हमने, तो हम ये समझ सकते हैं कि उनकी जो देश की सेवा करने का या देश के लिए भी अपना पूरा प्राण अर्पित करने का जो उनके अंदर एक उत्साह था, जो उनके अंदर प्रेरणा थी, वो केवल एक देशाभिमान में ही निहित नहीं थी, उसी से प्रेरणा इतनी थी, डीपर। इसीलिए वो गीता के उन्होंने जो गीता ऐसे दिखाया, जो कमेंट्री की है, बाकी उनका सारा लाइव जो है, वो बताता है कि उनकी प्रेरणा केवल वहां तक से मिल गई थी। गांधी जी की प्रेरणा केवल ऐसी एक पॉलिटिकल एक देश का एमेंसिपेशन होना चाहिए, इसके लिए जो आदमी रहता है हर एक आदमी के अंदर, स्वाभिमान किसी भी आदमी के अंदर होगा, उतने तक सीमित नहीं थी। तो मैं इसी बात को बता रहा हूं कि कोई भी काम करना हो, छोड़ दीजिए कौन सा काम करते हैं, लीव असाइड दैट क्वेश्चन, कोई भी काम करते समय प्रेरणा कहां से है, कहां से प्रेरणा लेते हो, किस लिए करते हो, कौन सा उसमें मन को कौन सा समाधान होता है, दिस इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट। काम कौन सा करते हैं दैट इज सेकेंडरी, लीव असाइड फॉर द टाइम, कौन सा काम करते हैं। कोई अपने जीवन में सारा जीवन वो ज्ञानेश्वरी का अध्ययन करके और उसका एक उत्तम एक विशिष्ट भाषा में ट्रांसलेशन करने में सारा जीवन उन्होंने खर्च किया, उसमें कौन सी प्रेरणा है, केवल ये प्रेरणा है कि मैं कुछ ज्यादा कोई साहित्य को सृजन करूंगा, कि एक मैं इस ज्ञानेश्वरी के ट्रांसलेशन के माध्यम से मेरा एक आत्मनिवेदन है, एक मेरी ये साधना है, इसी माध्यम से ये काम करने में मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आई विल एलिवेट, मैं इस मार्ग से मेरा उत्थान होगा, आई विल बी मोर क्वालिफाइड फॉर माय एलिवेशन। इसलिए कर किया कि एक मेरा नाम साहित्य में हो, कि इन्होंने एक बहुत बड़ा और साहित्यिक ढंग से और ग्रंथ लिखा है, इसलिए किया। कौन सी प्रेरणा है, इंस्पिरेशन किस चीज की है, कौन से मोटिव में से किया है, तो मोटिव इंपॉर्टेंट होता है, ये मेरा कहने का तात्पर्य है। Spiritual urge. I am trying to differentiate between the spiritual urge and the patriotic urge and the social urge. Generally, ये जो अर्जेस है ये इतने वाटर टाइट कंपार्टमेंट जैसे नहीं रहते। कोई कम्युनिस्ट भी कहता है, मेरा कोई विश्वास नहीं इस पे, मैं अपना काम करता हूँ, हो सकता है कि उसको नहीं मालूम, लेकिन देयर माइट बी without his knowledge, in the back of the mind there must be something which is deeper than simple establishment of social equity. ये एक अन्याय सहन नहीं होता, ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है, ये one is exploiting the other, ये अन्याय है, ये मेरा जो सिविक सेंस है वो बर्दाश्त नहीं करता। इतनी बात में से वो काम में लगा है, ऐसा उसको भले ही लगता हो, भले ही कहता भी हो, इट मे नॉट बी नेसेसरी। उसमें भी उसका कुछ पुट हो सकता है कि उसके अनजाने में the earth may be a little deeper than what meets the eye, परंतु हो सकता है कि वो इतना अधिक इंटेंस ना हो।
That you studied Swamiji's works from the point of view of patriotic, because Swamiji has he in most places, different places, talked patriotism and Hinduism and other things, and we do not study it from the religious side of it, and even your thought regarding the establishment of the Lord was also gained out of that, because you studied it from this angle. But in that case, when we started this, the first batch in our training, at that time, this idea was not given to us. More or less, the idea was that this is a sort of more importance was given to spiritual development, and people were given more training in that field, to develop in that field. So, had these more importance given at that time to make the people or inject more these patriotic feelings, I feel that the whole thing would have gone into different shape. I still feel that because of the conditions prevailing in the entire country, that we should implement the things, as you have said, that from the patriotic angle of Swamiji's thoughts. Even we can make certain changes, even in the training, on that value.
No, actually what I told was the reverse of what you say. I'm telling that even to be effectively patriotic, you must draw on more perennial urge, patriotic urge. For example, I told you that when the Britishers left this place, there was a patriotic urge of the people. Why people felt that now we can relax, even for doing patriotic works in all circumstances, all adversities. Your urge should not be simply patriotic. That may not be adequate. That was what I was trying to bring out.
No, that I agree. But see,
you put the proper urge in it. then whatever works you interest in, whether they are social work, whether it is nation building work, whether even political work, if the urge is right, why? Why you want this? Not simply my country, my people, my this, my this. There is some deeper meaning in it. If this urge is generated, that is more stable and man is more steady in all his dealing, in all his works. All simply those urges, they goad you as long as other things are equal. Other things being equal, the person may go ahead. Not in our circumstances. In our circumstances, all conceivable circumstances, if a man is to go towards his goal unhampered, then if he has the spiritual urge in him, you can very well say that he will never falter. That is what I am driving at. You are doing that work, suppose you get a defeat. Suppose you are working, you get a defeat. You meet with failure. In that failure, perhaps you may be lost. Which will sustain you in that failure? As long as you are getting success, as long as people are cheering you, as long as people are admiring you, you may go ahead. Perhaps if you meet with failure, then you will be found wanting. But if you have something deeper from which you drive inspiration, then these things are not going to affect you. This is only a course we adopted. This is a medium for your self-elevation. You have taken this work, you might have taken another work. 100 works are there, you have taken this work. What does it matter? You meet failure, you meet success. Somebody admires, somebody abuses. You don't get the credit. You are the people for whom you have worked, they reject you. This is happen. You are working for the people. You have no self-interest. Nothing that you want for yourself. For the very people you are working, they reject you. Then if you are having a social urge, the good of the society, then you feel, what? I am doing work for the society. The very people for whom I am working, they are averse to it. What to do? I do. The reaction that may affect you, that may create depression in you, and you may falter. But if you do it, society likes it or not, you know that you are doing good for the society. Today they are not going to appreciate it. 100 years after, this very society, their children will not appreciate it. What am I doing with that? I have done my job. I am doing this because it is through this work that I elevate myself. is my sadhana. If this impersonalness there is a lot of difference in this.
I think now I have understood by this I think that it is the individual upliftment or individual raising up for which all these works are means, and not that for these works we are taking the design, but our destiny is defined, and to reach that destiny we are taking this path.
You see, one thing I'm going to come to that, but then understand this, that everyone who comes on this earth has to work, and only through work that he can progress. Work he cannot avoid. He has to give a good account of himself. His development, his progress, that also requires that he accepts some work as the medium. So you take some work according to your prakriti, according to your pravritti, and that work you are not accepting because not primarily because you will achieve this, you will achieve that. Achieve for the society, achieve for the country, achieve for some other community, but not for that. Primarily because this work you are accepted as a medium for your elevation. The entire context changes. You have taken a mission. You will find that if suppose you stand in the crossroads, you have become 18 years old when you are on the crossroads. You have to take up some work. You have to chalk out the plan for your life. What work you take up? What you are ordained for? What you are cut for? You look within and you discover some mission for yourself. That this is my plan. You decide upon the strategy. This is a life's plan. Whether it is in the religious field, whether it is in the social field, whether it is in some other field, you take up work. With the sole idea that this is my sadhana. You are not accepting that work because you are going to get name. You are going to get fame. No other consideration. Good work. You look at yourself. What are your potentialities? What are your limitations? What are you cut for? What are your faculties? What is the need of the hour? You look to the surroundings. So, taking all things into consideration, you decide upon the plan of life. And you adopt a course and follow it. The incidental gains that you may gain, you are not much concerned with it. Suppose At that time the country was in bondage and some took to this revolutionary method. Well, accepting that they have got the spiritual knowledge, that this work is taken. According to the life they have taken. And they do it. They fail. In the eyes of the world or in the ordinary sense, they fail in their effort, they go to the gallows. Well, people will say he has failed. He has not failed. In fact, in his life he has not failed. Because he has accepted that work and that work he did up to the end, there is success. The very fact that he has done that work unfalteringly, without hesitation, and with enthusiasm, and there was no in any way hesitation on his part. He could do it till the end. That is a success in life. His life is successful. In the eye of the world, perhaps he could not achieve freedom. He started it to get freedom. Whereas freedom was to come after 100 years. He became a martyr. He failed. Another person might have come, he also might have failed. In the eye of the world, they are all failures. But spiritually, this person led the most successful life. We would have said that he had led an unsuccessful life if he had turned his back. If he had turned his back, then it was a Bhrashta Yogi. He did his sadhana well. And that is the meaning when we say that Siddha Siddho Nirvikara in Gita. What is Siddhi, what is Asiddhi, is Nirvikara in it. Because the worldly gain and worldly failure, he is not concerned with it. He is concerned with that failure and that success, whether he is going towards his goal steadily and without any fear, without any distraction or deviation. If he is able to go, that is success. If he falters, if he turns his back, it is a failure. As long as he does it unfalteringly, it is success. The eye of the world, if he is success, it will fail you. He doesn't bother about it. So, tell me such a person who is rooted in this spiritual life, where is the reason for him to get depressed or get gloomy? Where is the reason? There is no possibility of he being attacked or he being suffering from it. For example, now we are running an institution and many persons are coming and going and this man meeting is going on, we are running classes and talking and this. Is your and mine success depends upon how many people become like us, how many people retain their enthusiasm. That doesn't concern us. You do your job. You do your job to your satisfaction. If you are satisfied that, well, I have not spared anything. I did my best. That ends. The success and failure in the eyes of the people is the worldly measure. The worldly people will measure it. We are not concerned. If with this attitude you work, you imagine what strength it possesses. You don't become nervous. You don't get depressed. Just as in the battlefield, you go, your colleagues are there, all are fighting. Your colleague gets a bullet, he falls. But you go ahead. How many people fall? How many remain? Who reaches the target? That is not your concern. Whether you have fought well, whether you have done your job, whether at the time you take your last breath, you are able to say that, well, I have done my duty. Not for a moment I faltered. If that you are able to say, then well, how will you concern with other things? So this attitude makes you as if you have drunk nectar. You are really Amrutaputra. You don't know fear. You are not worried about the other material things. You use your talent, you use your light, you use your intelligence, you use your genius, and put it your utmost. You have done your job. When your time to quit comes, you quit. Smilingly you quit.
This philosophy is very difficult to digest. Particularly in a life worker, at the initial stages, this is very difficult to be a motivating force. And that's what I think Bhagavatam was saying. And initially, some lesser urge, like patriotism, etc., may help us to life worker more than the concept.
You see, always it is this, water seeps its own level. You may put the water on the top of the hill. If the gravitational pulls are going to attract it, it will go down. You give him the best. Well, if he is not able to digest it, if he is not able to take it, it will go down. But why do you start from below?
No, we can very well take this philosophy, but giving accent on in the training.
No, it is not philosophy. Don't mistake it for a philosophy. It is not a philosophy. It is life. It is the principle of life that I am taking. We are human beings. If you consider that we are only rational animals, if you consider that we are at the level of rational animals, so before rational animals, for example, just as before swine, you can't spread pearls. In the same way, those rational animals, you cannot talk of all these things which you call philosophy. They must be fed with rubbish.
Actually, from years together, I am hearing this word spiritual from your mouth. But still, I could not understand its meaning.
Well,
so it will be better if you explain its meaning in detail and know its limitations for us.
Well, if you understand that you are not understood and there is no hurry about it, have patience, understand it. Why should you be so impatient that you must understand this immediately, now and here? You understand it. If it is not able to know higher mathematics, you will not understand. You can't say it, you can't wish it away. It is there. You qualify yourself, understand it after some time. You will hurry about it. And you do not say that you must understand this. You may not understand this. Whatever you understand, depend upon it, work. That requires experience. It is not simply certain words that we have chosen or been taught.
The point which he was trying to make was, for those who cannot understand the meaning of spiritual life and get an inspiration from that, what should be the inspiration then? Should it be a patriotic life or spiritual life? And so on. And if the person has got any of these subjects, then can he still fit in within that?
You see, suppose now ours is service mission. We tell them that when you serve, don't serve merely because of compassion. Say, suppose somebody is there, he is very much ignorant and very poor, and you feel like helping him out of compassion, that he is very poor and therefore he is not able to make his living, so let us do something for him. Even if you do out of compassion, that is good. You can do out of compassion. But if I am telling, that is, who are you to take compassion on him? Who are you to take compassion on him? You help him with this idea that, well, I got a chance to help him. While I learn this opportunity, I have got things with which I can help. So, with that humility, let me help him. Not out of patronage, distributing patronage, or with that ego satisfaction that I am raising him from the dust. This we can tell. If he is not able to grasp it, if he is not enough elevated to understand the meaning of it, let him do out of compassion. It was not bad. You are asking to transcend it. If he is not able to transcend, let him do out of compassion. Let him do out of social life. Let him do that work out of patriotism. We are not denying it. We are not saying that that is not good. We say that is good. That you will